So, I've really been geeking out on this HackMotion wrist sensor, right? And I think there's some things that it showed me recently that, in 30 years of teaching, I didn't quite truly understand, and I think is slightly miscommunicated out there. And I just want to share those things with you, okay? And, golf is a variety. You've got to have hands to do different things, right? To hit a bunker shot, to hit a 3-foot putt, to hit a 50-foot putt, to hit a driver, to hit a punch shot. There's constantly things that our hands are doing, and we need to have that kind of variety. We can't just do one thing all the time and expect it to work to hit these different golf shots. And HackMotion has really kind of helped me understand exactly what's happening. So I want to start off with the short game, right? And you notice over here in this green box, right, HackMotion is tracking my flexion and my extension. So when it goes into flexion, more of a bowed wrist position, right, a bowed lead wrist, it goes into a negative number, okay? When it goes into extension, it goes into a positive number. And those things in themselves are not always bad. We actually want to do some of this in chipping, okay? So over on this side of the graph, if you look at this dotted line, this is a major championship winner, right, hitting a 30-yard short game shot. This is his address, top of backswing for that small shot, and his impact position. And notice what's happening here, right? As he starts to take the golf club back, he's actually going into a little bit of flexion, or he's bowing this lead wrist slightly, right? And then as he hits the golf ball, right, approaching impact, guess what? He's extending his wrist ever so slightly. Now he's doing them in equal amount to where he's basically returning his wrist back to its original address position, which is very interesting, okay? Because, you've got the Phil Mickelson hinge and hold, right? Not that we might not do that with certain shots, especially if you had a bad lie. That is definitely not what he's doing here, okay? And that's not what a lot of the graphs of the other great short game players look like in the HackMotion software, okay? And he's not doing the Steve Stricker, Jason Day, kind of a larger putting stroke or just say wristless motion per se. He's actually taking his wrist and very systematically allowing it to flex slightly and then allowing it to extend coming through. So there's a little bit of flexion. I'm exaggerating some just so you can kind of see in the camera. As he takes it back, right, he flexes a little bit, and then as he comes into impact, he's extending, and he's doing it in a way that's lining the shaft up straight so he can kind of use the bounce of the club. This is your standard good lie, 30-yard, slightly bigger chip shot. But this same technique can be applied all around the greens, right? For a 10-yarder, a 12-yarder, a 15-yarder. We go into a little bit of flexion and then into a little bit of extension. And it's interesting to me because I think I did that. I didn't necessarily know exactly what I was doing. But that's not what happens on a full swing, okay? So we'll get to the full swing stuff here in just a bit. Let me hit a couple little chip shots here, and you can kind of take a look and watch me try to emulate that feeling. Not too bad. I went into a little bit of flexion. I did it earlier than him. I did it, nearer the setup position, and then it went into some extension as I came through. Not quite as good as the major championship winner, obviously, right? Let's see if I can do one a little better where I don't quite do it so early. But I'm feeling here as I do this, just rhythmically and smooth, I'm feeling this lead wrist flex slightly and then feeling it extend. And HackMotion is great. It'll even pick up my practice swings. You can see the practice swing looks a lot more like the pros. I'm matching that rate of flexion to extension and the timing of it, right? And like I was saying, a lot of people when they're chipping, you've seen in the past, like a good example is Tiger Woods, right? Back 7 years ago when he was making some big swing changes to his backswing, all of a sudden he started having a lot of short game problems. And a lot of those problems, and he said it himself, he's like, I was confusing my full swing technique with my short game technique. And obviously he's a genius in both of them, but once he started mixing them both together, we started having problems. So if you're actually setting up and taking the club back like you would for a full swing, you're going to have a problem in your short game because we really don't want to do that, especially I'm talking inside of 30 yards. as you start going out farther and you look at this hack motion data, 50, 60, 70, it starts to look a little bit more like a full swing. Not exactly, but a little bit more so. But this is very different. And this breaks a couple of myths. Like, whoever would have thought you want to be extending your wrist as you go to impact, right? People are always thinking you want to be keeping it stable, keeping the hand slightly forward maybe, right? Not letting that wrist condition change. But that's not exactly what they're doing. Let's try it again, see if I can get a better one actually hitting a ball. So not bad either. For the most part, I'd give myself a B, maybe a B+. I go into flexion, right? I smoothly go into some extension. Obviously not as good as that one as far as the timing and the rates, but pretty well done, okay? So I would definitely remember that as you're hitting short game shots, right? Especially shots where the club should kind of be staying below my waist, right? If I had a imaginary shelf right here, I'm keeping this down here. If you start hinging your wrist vertically, you've got a problem. If you start pulling on the handle, you've got another problem. Those of you that have some chipping yips or misused chunking and blading balls around the green, I guarantee you need to kind of take a little bit of a deep dive into what your hands are doing in the short game to make sure you've got educated short game hands, okay? So now as we go to a full swing, I've got my 8-iron. I'm not going to be flexing and extending. Go ahead and let's change it to the full swing graph. This is the one we were showing you last time. This is Tiger Woods hitting a 7-iron. And the thing you'll notice, they call the pattern a couple things. They're really smart over at Hack Motion. They call it stable extension, okay? So basically, stable extension means, like you see where my green graph is currently, it's like +12. That's measuring the amount of extension in my wrist just started by my grip. They're keeping that very stable as they go back. It's not changing a whole lot, okay? That is not doing what they were doing in the chip shot, where it was kind of doing this more. So think of it more of like a little bit of a clapping motion in the chip shot. In the full swing, they're taking this whole unit, right? This whole hand, arm, and club unit, and they're just passing it back with very little change, okay? And that reminds me of some of the times that I've really played my best, especially under pressure, with just a nice, simple, smooth, quiet takeaway thought. And that really kind of gets me off to a good start. You notice as I'm doing it too, I'm kind of using my bigger muscles. I'm using my chest and back muscles, a little bit of rhythm in my feet to kind of push everything back nice and quiet. You know, how often do you see some of these great players practicing that stuff, right? You know, Justin Thomas comes to mind. Rory McIlroy practices his takeaway constantly, you know, on off tournament days. He's always working to get that off, you know, to get that going straight. So if I hit one now, obviously the graph is going to look a little different. Let me do a full swing one. And I'm feeling the same nice push away, right? This one-piece feeling with stable hands. And I'm slightly aware of just kind of doing it on plane. Obviously, I don't want to push my hands away and go in here. You would see some of those rates change anyway. I'm not going to push them out this way. I'm pushing it back and just passing it straight back behind me. Okay, let's go ahead and hit one. Not the best there. Let's try one more. That changed a little bit too much. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's do it one more time. Nice quiet hands in my takeaway. Okay, that was much better. That was much better. So once again, the solid line is me. The dotted line is Tiger Woods hitting a 7-iron. I'm hitting an 8-iron. So that was pretty darn good. I'd give myself an A there as far as kind of being pretty stable in terms of my wrist conditions from address to my top of backswing, right? I've seen a lot of graphs of my students, and it's something that's really difficult to do. It looks more like a roller coaster, right? Especially when you get somebody doing it the wrong way. My one little issue is before impact, I did start to extend my wrist a little bit more. He did not do that, right? Part of probably what makes him, you know, obviously a world-class ball striker. Let me show you what I see a lot of my students doing. I'm seeing this inside takeaway with a little lift to the top. And if you watch my swing, it won't even look that bad. But now we start to see some different things going on because that takeaway is more hand-driven. They're kind of, you know, using their hands to torque and wrench the club this way and then bringing it up. And it does create power, right, when we kind of do this, but that's not what the best players are doing. What it feels like, right, if I gave you another analogy, if you could have that same sense, his hands are super quiet, right, as he just pushes the club away. It's almost like he's just hitting a little 60-yard shot, but he's hitting that 7-iron like 177 yards. It's really quiet in the beginning. He's using his pivot to bring the club up to the top. And then as he comes through, it's got a lot of that same theme, right? And you can just tell if you watched me swing, right, you would think, boy, that's a professional golf swing. It looks so quiet. It looks wide. It looks calm and collected as I go back to the top. When you look at a lot of bad swings, there's a lot of herky-jerky motions and things that are going on from the wrist that are really not stable. Okay, so that's all I wanted to share with you. You've got your chipping and your short game wrist. We're seeing it go into flexion, and then don't be afraid. Let it go back into extension and return back to its original starting position, and then just stabilize through. And then when you get to your full swing, you want to be doing something different in that takeaway. You want that whole wrist condition just being transported one piece back to the top with the bigger muscles. We're feeling a little bit of stretch and load as I go to do it. It's definitely more an athletic feeling to produce power. Power from the body, but same stability in the hands, because that hand stability is what translates to a lot of accurate shots. When we start going around, you know, putting different twists and torques on it, that ball is going to start to fly wildly. So check it out. Hack Motion, obviously, I've had a number of students that have bought it and they've loved it. You know, they really kind of takes their learning to the next level. If it's for you, great. Check it out. We've got some discount codes and some links down below if you want to purchase it. I will see you guys next video. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for even more ways to take your golf swing to the next level, then I've got just the thing for you. I've put together a 3-part web class where I reveal the exact formula I use to take my students from complete hackers to the type of golfers who confidently attack pins, split fairways with ease, and consistently crush shot after shot, all before you reach the bottom of your next bucket of range balls. I call it the One Swing Fix, and you can get the entire thing free of charge by clicking the link right here. The training series isn't available anywhere else, so go ahead, click the link right now, and I'll see you on the other side.